Hello.
Good
Are we
morning.
there? Good morning, everybody. I was just like ready to adjust my glasses. Caught me. Good morning and welcome back to an episode of Make. It has been a while since we have been here. It has been kind of a crazy year. So we're back. We just introduced the Journeyman Jacket pattern, which we're really excited about. So we thought, you know what better way to do this than to come on, talk about it. Hawke can give his perspective because it really did all start with him. So I'd like to say it's all his fault, but that sounds meaner than I mean it to be.
Good morning, Amy.
So that's what we're gonna do. So if you are familiar with Make and with me and with Hawke, you know that we had the elemental coat pattern. We've had it out for about 3 years, I think now, and we've been doing that for a while. I teach classes with it, blah blah blah. And then what happened? So we have this quilt coat like that everybody loves.
We wanted to make a version for me, so we started talking about what it would be like to hack it and make it a little more masculine, gender neutral is what we're calling the pattern. So the Journeyman Jacket came out of that. This is the prototype.
Yes.
I found some fun fabric that is basically double gauze, but it's got a couple of extra layers of batting or material in it. So, and it's pre-quilted. I picked this fabric because I wanted to display these patches on this coat.
And somebody asked specifically about those patches.
Yeah, so this is a great story. So Diane, who is a Cuddle ambassador for Shannon Fabrics when we worked over there, she found out that I am a big space nerd. And so she had found in her garage her stepfather's memorabilia from when he worked for Rockwell, helping to train the astronauts for all of the Apollo and the Skylab missions. So when she found that box of memorabilia, she thought of me. And she checked with NASA, and none of the stuff that she had in that box was anything they didn't have a version of, so they didn't feel like they needed it to add it to their museum collection. So she conspired with Teresa, and a box showed up unannounced at the house in Utah when we lived there. And when I opened it, Teresa was filming, and I didn't understand what was going on. And
why would she care that much?
Turns out it's this box full of all of this gentleman's memorabilia. So all of his mission patches, all of his mission coins, 8mm film from the launches directly from Rockwell, all kinds of amazing stuff. I cried. It was great. Immediately, I asked her, well, okay, so these patches, they're basically collector's items. Do I feel right about putting them back into service?
Yeah.
And I did.
Because they are the originals.
They are the originals. This is the same fabric dye lots, the same thread dye lots as Neil Armstrong had on his spacesuit when he walked on the moon. And cool. I am honored to wear these patches. So every patch is an Apollo mission that had astronauts. So I've got every single one of them is on here. And I wanted to make sure that the jacket was doing them justice. Yeah. So I picked this fabric because it looked a lot like spacesuit fabric to me. And we started laying it out and hacking the elemental coat. And I knew I didn't really love the binding look for me. So she said, hey, why don't we try to face it? Which, if you don't know, and I didn't know, binding is when you add the little strip around the edge of a quilt or a quilt coat. And facing is when you basically just take the same fabric and you bring it back to the inside and sew it and create your hem lines that way.
So on this one, because this was the prototype when we were like just trying things out. So we just took the elemental coat pattern, I straightened up the sides, and then I decided to face it. And by facing it that time, I actually created facings. And so I created a facing for the sleeve and a facing for the hood and facing for the bottom. So I created like a separate piece for that. In the pattern, when we developed it, then we actually did it so that it just folds in and it's super easy. That's what we did on the front so we could add a zipper. So we just kind of integrated
Zipper.
it into the pattern so that it was, it's there. Would you grab we can go from top down and we'll show the, go ahead. I was going to say we'd show the pattern and what I mean with that.
Got it. Oh, yeah, let's do that. I was going to say there's one more thing in the bi-level hem, but let's talk about it. We'll talk about
that. Yeah, for sure. So this is the pattern for the hood, and you can see here there are lines for each size as to where you're going to mark the folding line, and that becomes the facing. So like on this one, you cut the yellow line. So this would become the facing for it, basically like this.
And that explains why on the pattern piece, you'll see like it's got this weird little swoopy doop right here where it looks like it's going the wrong direction.
Right.
And then when you fold the facing in, it matches. And all new to me. Anyway, we then tried to figure out how to take all of the hacks from this prototype and turn it into a pattern. Yeah. The other thing is that, and this was my choice, was that we have what we call a bi-level hem. And I wanted this to drop a little bit in the back just for some added interest. So that's in the pattern too. I don't have any pockets in the side seams like the elemental coat. Probably could have.
Yes, you totally could.
Totally could have.
Yeah.
The Journeyman jacket now comes with a Welt pocket.
Yes.
So that's more of an advanced garment technique.
Yes.
I'm about to learn how to do it though. So over last week, I started sewing a new version for myself, and Teresa's helping. We're going to jump into that right now. This is basically the same fabric manufacturer, just a different colorway. And it's the colorway that's on the cover of the pattern.
And so this is the Merchant and Mills cotton jacquard fabric. I think there's a banner for it, Audrey, if you want to pop that up there. So it's from a company called Merchant and Mills, which is in the UK, and it is it's fairly expensive to get right now. We got it before all the tariffs hit, but you can find it at some shops. So from what the stock that they had before, I looked at the shops that I know that had it before, and all of them are out of stock right now because I was trying to send you guys somewhere. But just keep your eye out. It's cotton jacquard is what it is. So it's already like kind of quilted together. It's super cool stuff. It's like almost like layers of gauze. It's fascinating. It's fascinating.
I love it. I'm really happy with it. What was I going to say? So this version has quilting on the grid and then on the X's, on the 45s as well. And then this one doesn't have the X's. So it's more of just a grid pattern.
Yeah.
I was able to utilize the grid pattern to help me in my layout process, which we will do a little video about and throw it up on YouTube. But if I center my pattern pieces on one of these quilting lines, I was able to, along 90% of my seams, get the quilt lines to match up, which makes it look really nice and finished. My brain loved that.
It did.
It's not going to work for everybody's quilt pattern. Can I pull this one?
Yeah, let's pull this one. So let's talk about. So this is one that I've made with an old quilt that I'd gotten. So I wanted to make.
You want to hold that for a second while you're talking about it?
Sure.
I'll try it on.
Sure.
Because I haven't done that.
Yeah. So this one is the large size. So the men's sizes, the Journeyman jacket sizes come in small, medium, large, extra large, and then on the page there's actually lines to expand it so that if you need to make it bigger, you can. So I've given you lines to do with that. I'll end up doing a video about it. This is a tied quilt, and I really wanted to tie it or use a quilt that was tied for a quilt coat. And so I got to try it with this one, which makes me really happy. So this is the coat. It has the facing. So I'll show you here. So this is the facing. So you can see this is the back of the quilt, and it just comes around and then gets tacked down. I did hand stitching on all of this, just a whip stitch, because I didn't want the stitching to come through this side. You can totally stitch it through and it's absolutely fine. Okay, let's take it off and put it up on the table so we can look at it a little bit closer.
I want to say hello to some folks. Yeah. Rose, I see you in there.
Hi,
Thanks
Amy.
for coming. All right, down.
Nice to see. Okay, so this, let me show you a couple of things about it. So this is the Welt pocket, and you were saying she's going to learn along with you, which is true. So a Welt pocket is this kind of fancier pocket that you often see in more formal apparel, I guess.
Yeah, I've seen it in, obviously like suit blazers and stuff like that, and
nice
nice coats.
Yeah, all that sort of stuff. So what we originally, when you do a Welt pocket, and this is the way I originally did it, you do it as two separate pockets. So if you're familiar with the elemental coat, so let's grab that one there. I'm going to show you the difference because there's some things that are different.
It does.
Okay, good. Does it have pockets? Yes. Okay, so this is the elemental coat, and the elemental coat has the inseam pocket. Okay, so it's down the side seam, which works really well, but some people want to put a pocket a little further out. And so we put a patch pocket in the coat pattern, which you could do, but you could also do this Welt. So a lot of these things that we're doing on the Journeyman jacket, you could absolutely do on the elemental coat. So a lot of those features are really kind of swappable. All right. So this is how it's done. We do it. We just turn it back here. It's one layer, so it's not super thick. So your pocket is only this one back piece. And when I was doing the Welt for the Journeyman jacket, I was doing a Welt pocket like you traditionally would, where you would have two pieces and it would be floppy inside. Is that one have it? Yes. Well, and you can see
prototype number 2.
So this is a prototype. You can see how this didn't work. Okay. So this was the pocket, and it's like a floppy thing. And then I realized when I turned it under, I would have to sew the pocket down, which when we do the elemental coat, we chop off the pocket at the bottom, but because it's bound, we don't have this issue.
You don't lose nearly as much of the pocket real estate.
Yeah.
But with the facing coming up so far, which it needs to, you ended up losing a good portion of the pocket. Your pocket real estate.
And I didn't particularly love this flip-floppy here. It just really, I don't know, it doesn't work. And even with it being like a thin fabric, this is just a corduroy fabric, which worked really nicely actually. But with it being like this, I couldn't do the back of the corduroy. I don't know. It just wasn't working and I didn't love it. So we're like, how can we do it differently? And then Hawke got really clever.
I think what I asked was an impertinent question.
Yeah, it might have been a little impertinent, but it helped spark a little trial and error. Can you help with that?
Yep.
It's all fall in there. Okay, so this is a lot of busyness. So let me bring this out of there. Okay, so this was the prototype of how we tried it. So this is the pocket. So Hawke was like, couldn't you do it with just one layer? And I was like, I don't know. Could you? So we tried it, and you could see there's a couple of stitching lines because I kind of rearranged the pocket a little bit. And how would it be if you cut it shorter and yada, yada. But the way that it works is you create this Welt that you sew on there, bring it underneath, and then you have this other pocket that is just one layer. So what this does is makes it very thin. And I really love that. I think that that's kind of like a winning part of both the elemental coat and the Journeyman jacket is that this pocket lays really nice and flat compared to some other, like if you did 2 layers of quilt for the pockets.
I also love the fact that because this isn't a patch pocket, though patch pockets are great, but I love that your quilt design on the front is not interrupted by another piece. You basically get continuous view of whatever your quilt top is. And I think that was always the impetus. I'm going to switch back to one. That was always the impetus for the way she designed the pockets on the elemental coat, was that, again, what she said, you don't want to add an extra layer of bulk, especially with quilted material, but also we didn't necessarily want to interrupt the flow of your original quilt design. We wanted you to be able to preserve as much of that as possible. So those two things competing drove her to design a pocket that only has one piece plus the front.
Yeah. So it's probably one of the most common questions when I teach a class is like, are you sure you only need 2 pockets? I'm like, sure, you only need 2 pockets. So you're only going to need 2 pockets with the Journeyman jacket too. And it does make that pocket really nice. So I love this feature of it. And like I said, this idea is totally flip-floppable with the elemental coat. So if you were like, I want to add Welt pockets to my elemental coat, you just have to figure out where you want your pockets and put them in. The instructions and the pocket shape would be exactly the same. So I'm kind of excited about the like new style options that open up. So if you have the Journeyman Jacket pattern and the elemental coat pattern, a lot of those things are really kind of morphable. The biggest difference in the shape is that it is straight. So it is not, and you could taper it in a little bit. So if you wanted a slimmer fit, you absolutely could do that. You can do the bi-level hem or straight hem. So those things are a little bit different. You could totally add that to the elemental coat if you like the more A-line shape. Absolutely, all of these things kind of flip-flop. Okay, so the other thing, so let me show you this again, actually. So let's bring this over. Would you flip the camera for me?
Yes.
There we go. Okay, so here's my pocket again. All right, so here's my side seam. Here's my pocket. It has this little, this is the welt. That's what this is called here. And you're probably familiar with this in jackets, but sometimes they use them for like back pockets, and it'll just be a skinny little welt. This is, the pocket is inside. So again, you're going to have your exposed edge. So you could serge this or do a Hong Kong finish. And then you have your quilt pocket inside so that when we turn it to the back side, it kind of mushes in. So this is a prototype. If I were to do this and I really wanted it to look nice, I would have bound these edges with binding with Hong Kong finish, which is, there's a tutorial for that on YouTube here. But this one also, it extends longer than I fixed it in the pattern, so it doesn't go past the pocket. So it would originally, you know, it will fit like that instead. And you would just bind this pocket to make it kind of hide. And so if you're planning your quilt coat out, you can absolutely use your backing fabric for this, and it would just mush in beautifully and you'll never even see it, which I really love. The other thing that is kind of different about this is the facing on the front. Obviously, we talked about that, and the neckline. So because this isn't bound like the elemental coat is, so in the elemental coat, you have your collar and then you bind the collar here before you put it on. With this one, because there's no binding, we had to add a fabric on the back. So I suggest adding a thinner fabric back here. I just used a quilting cotton. If you use, this is a pretty thick quilt, which, do you want to go find the scraps for this? Just go find a little piece of it.
Sure.
I have to tell you about this quilt a little bit more because it's kind of fun. But this is kind of a thick one. And so I just added a quilting cotton back here so it doesn't make it too much thicker. Okay. But when we sew that on, we're going to do a small kind of binding facing here. So if you're familiar with something like the Scout tee or a lot of other modern apparel fabrics, use this where you sew a binding on, you turn it down and you stitch it down. This one I hand stitched because again, it's really thick. So this is really kind of poofy right here, and I couldn't sew through all of that. But this covers up that stitching really nicely so that your collar on the inside looks great. And then you'll kind of turn it over. So this one, again, like the elemental coat, has a collar, it has a hood. You have both of those options. And oh, so here is, let me show you this. This is so crazy. So like I said, I bought this quilt a while ago and I liked it because it was tied, and I thought, let me try this out. I don't really know how it'll work because the quilting is so far apart and I wasn't really sure how it would turn out. I really like the way that it's turned out. I just definitely need an elemental coat because I'm a little hippier. I'm a little bit pear-shaped. So that one's just going to be a cute one I get to use for things. So this is the scrap that I had from it. The thing that I wanted to show you is that I realized like what was inside of it is actually just a blanket. So there's no, well, there are pieces that had some weird chunks of batting stuff, but 99% of this is just this wool blanket that's in here.
It even had the satin borders still on it in pretty much everywhere. And some of it kind of got bunched up. There were places that were 4 or 5 layers thick.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. So quilting archaeology.
Yeah, so fascinating. So fascinating. So this made it fairly bulky in places, but not terrible. And I actually, one of the first quilts that I did, for my son, I used an old army blanket in it. So you can absolutely do this, but it was a little bit of a surprise, especially this satin binding. Like you said, that was a little bit of a shock that I was like, oh, well, there's that. So anyway, don't don't disparage quilts. Like they could actually work really well for this. So I was really unsure about a tied quilt, but turns out it's pretty cute. So it fits me. I've also got some spots in here that have some like little tears and stuff that I'll need to kind of repair a little bit. Let me stick it on. So one of the things about the Journeyman Jacket too is that the sleeves are longer. So it turns out my arms might be on the shorter side of normal for women. So there is a line on the sleeve. I have that here. So there's a line on the sleeve that'll let you turn it down. I turned it under more because I wanted it to fit my arms.
Really cute, that right? Looks super cute.
Really cute. Yeah. I love it. So very fun. I'm going to add a zipper to this, I think. Eventually, you can add a zipper or buttons.
There is a buttons version.
I'm like, there's one somewhere. So the way the sizing goes, so I mentioned
this is black on black, so I'm not really sure how well it's going to show up.
Yeah, but, probably not well. We'll show it from the top down in just a second. So the sizing with it, like I said, it goes small, medium, large, extra large. And
is there a 2X?
Oh yeah, and 2X.
And there's a 2X.
And a 2X. The pattern pages for the for the Journeyman Jacket. We just checked and made sure we had it.
I know it's here.
And then it disappeared. So on the sizing for that, there's kind of a range of sizes. If you are near the top size, so if it goes up to like say a 34 to 36 and you're at a 36, then you could do a zipper, but probably not a button. So if you wanted to do buttons, then you would go up a size. So this one, for instance, is a small and it fits Hawke, except that he can't really button it very well. It gets really tight. He did the medium and we can totally overlap that one and add buttons. So there's some back and forth. Oh, there it is. Okay. So there it is. So the size is like the small is 35 to 37. And that is your chest measurement.
Yep.
So that's how you figure out the sizes. So Hawke was on the upper end of that, so the buttons didn't work as well, but the medium would work to do the buttons. So absolutely. Kind of like a lot like the elemental coat, it really depends on how you want the fit. It also makes a big difference on what kind of quilt that you use, and that's true with all quilt coats. So this one is a much thicker, heavier, kind of stiffer version of it than the one that you made with the cotton.
Right.
The jacquard, because it's much softer and floppier. Okay. All right. So I'm going to have you take that.
Okay.
All right. So let me bring you back down to the upper camera and I'll show you. So this is the back. This is the prototype when he got it done without the patches on it. This is pre-patch. So your sizes are here. This is the size range. With the PDF pattern and with the printed pattern, there will be lines on the pattern to show you how to enlarge it. So while it goes up to this size, there are instructions on how to enlarge it even more. So if you are larger, the person you're making for it is larger, you can absolutely make the coat so that it fits, okay? Which is, I think, super good. This is what I was talking about. So there are a couple things with this I want to show. One, we have a line here in the middle to lengthen and shorten your sleeve. So if, like me, you have a little bit shorter arms, we can absolutely just move this so that we can have it a little bit shorter. You would just need to measure it, decide how much shorter you need to make it. And then if you have to straighten up these sides, you can absolutely do that. I'll show you here. You can see it's just the tiniest bit off, and we would just use our ruler to make that straight.
And why is that? How is that different from the elemental coat sleeve? Because with the elemental coat sleeve, you could just add or subtract off of the sleeve hem, right?
Yes. Yes. So with the elemental coat, you can just add to the bottom. This one, because it has the facing, you have to actually change the length in here. This coat, you can see, if you have the elemental coat, you notice that this is a slimmer sleeve. So the coat itself is slimmer. The sleeve is slimmer. It's a little bit different. And really, I feel like this one is much more usable in a lot of different fabrics. The elemental coat in denim is great, but I feel like men will probably want to wear, if they're going to use this coat, they would want it in something different, maybe. I don't know. More options for everybody is what I think.
Hey, okay. We have a Pendleton blanket here that we got at the factory seconds or whatever that had something wrong with it. We couldn't even figure out what it was.
Yeah.
It's absolutely getting turned into a quilt coat.
Yes.
Soon.
Yes. So this one, so like talking about fabric options, Pendleton blanket is absolutely an option. I need to make a lining for that one. This one is some canvas that I got locally at a shop called PDX Solarium. It's a nice kind of stiff canvas. I washed it first because it's going to shrink. So I washed it in hot and dried it.
This kind of has Carhartt vibes.
Yes. Yeah, there's a little Carhartt going on here.
Yeah.
So it's really nice. This one has the breast pocket. So that's the other option, is you have a breast pocket with this pattern. This one has the hood, which you can see, maybe it's a little hard, but this is the facing is here. And then I just serged this edge and left it plain. So depending on what you're using for your fabric, if I were using a quilt, I would probably want to bind this with something like this. It's easy enough to leave plain, but this is one that we did the buttons on, and it works just fine. So I love the little buttons on it, an easy addition. So buttons, zipper, breast pocket, welt pocket.
Mary Jo, you're going to have to tell us all about, at some point, you're going to have to tell us all about working at the Pendleton factory. I want details.
I really want to do the tour there.
I'm sure they have a tour.
I know they do. Okay. And I really want to do it.
All right.
Yeah.
It's on our adventure list then.
Yes. I've been to the Pendleton store a few times, and they have a tour. I want to do it. Okay.
Hi, Mom, watching from Jackson, Ohio. I see you.
Hi.
Good morning.
What was the other one I wanted to show? So the denim or the canvas, I have railroad denim that I want to try. So we have the jacquard that you've got, the corduroy, canvas, quilt. So we've tried a bunch of different things.
We talk about denim?
I want to do denim one. We did a denim of the elemental coat, and it's always a fan favorite. So we'll have to have like little matching ones. Did you look through the comments at all to see if there were questions?
I did a little bit a minute ago. Let's see. I don't know that there are questions yet. We just posted last night on our YouTube channel the part 1 of her teaching me how to sew this coat.
Yeah.
So you get all the way through sleeves, shoulder seams, and side seams in part 1. It's a little long-winded. It's an hour and 20 minutes. It's basically sewing in real time, and you get to listen to us banter like this the whole time. I'm making smart comments.
And I'm teaching him how to make a quilt
coat. She's teaching me how to make a quilt coat. Hopefully this week we'll carry on. I'll learn how to do welt pockets. I'll learn how to attach the collar on mine, which I'm really excited about. And then we'll see how far we get. We'll probably do a third part for finishing, for like zippers and buttons and stuff like that.
Yeah. So we'll probably do it in a couple of sections, because I feel like the things that are new to learn are really the welt pocket and the facing for the neckline. That's a little bit different. The other thing that's a little different is how the bottom is done. So will you grab your cream one there?
Yes.
And show the bi-level hem. So this is kind of a funky little thing. And he asked, like, could we make it? Down? Sure. Okay. Could we make it lower in the back? And I was like, I think so. Let me see if I can figure it out. So this took a little while to figure out in the actual pattern, but this, you can see this is the side seam, and then it pops down a little lower. Let's see. Yours is 2 inches, and I think the one that we did in the pattern is 2.5 inches. So a little bit wider, but if you want to do that, you absolutely can. It's a little bit of funkiness here, because when this, again, prototype is that I just folded this up, and then it's not the same here. And in the pattern, I think this one has it. Yes. Then I did it so that it actually, the facing goes all the way.
Right. So like this line is consistent all the way across.
Right.
So then you could just finishes nicely.
It down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think was nice. A good fix.
Yeah. So there were some adjustments. So you can see like the stitching just kind of goes all the way around the jacket. Okay. So that's a little bit different than this, but I think this bi-level hem is super fun. It was a really clever idea, and thank you. So
you're welcome.
So he definitely came up with some interesting ideas on how to do this and how to change it so that it was a little, a little more his style. And I feel like it does make it a very, like I said, very gender neutral kind of pattern. It's just a really easy jacket that you can make with lots of things. A lot of the construction is very similar to the elemental coat. So if you've done that, the elemental coat, the elemental kids coat, the the Journeyman Jacket now, they all have very similar construction techniques in the overall of it. But then there are these little specific design details that I think are really fun. So I'm looking forward to seeing people be able to make it. If you have any questions, please do pop them up because I'm happy to answer them while we're here.
We had a great question on that video that I posted last night. First question up on that video was, I just made an elemental coat and my husband would like a vest, a quilted vest. And could we hack the Journeyman Jacket to be a vest? And the answer is
not really. I've gotten this question a lot. So a lot of people want to be able to make it into a vest, and it doesn't work very well because the coat and the jacket both are made to be slightly loose, especially the coat. The elemental coat is quite loose, and that's the way I wanted it. So you could wear like a sweater underneath it. So the sizing is really kind of off for being able to do it. The other thing is that the sleeves end, because they're a drop sleeve, they end over here. So if you just don't attach the sleeve, you kind of more have a, what is that? Somebody tell me what that sleeve style is called. I totally just forgot. Where it just comes right off your shoulder.
The drops.
It's not a drop shoulder.
It's more than that.
It's like the sleeve on my shirt here, where it just like comes off and then it just ends here.
Got it.
So that's the way your vest would be, is that it would just end right here, which is not really a vest. So I will say that because of that, and because we got enough questions about it, Missouri Star Quilt Company asked me if I would design a vest for them using kind of the same techniques. And so I did. And you can actually find that vest pattern in the Block magazine.
Cap sleeve.
A cap sleeve. Thank you.
Thanks, Tammy.
I knew that. I was like, I have the word in my head somewhere.
Thanks, Deborah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
Mary
Jo.
Thank you. So in the Block magazine, I think it was May of this year, August of this year. It might have been August of this year that it came out in the magazine. And there is a quilt vest pattern in that magazine that I designed with a lot of the same techniques. So it has a similar-ish shape. So it's not as, there's a straight version and a slightly A-line version. And you could do it with ties, or you could do it with snaps, that sort of thing. So there is a vest pattern available. It's just in Block magazine. And that's the easiest way of doing it, because you have to create what they call an arm side. So if you don't know what that is, it's the shape of the sleeve that kind of does this so that it will actually fit over here for a vest. And that's really important in the vest pattern, is that it actually kind of contours to the body a little bit more, like a vest needs to be a little bit more fitted. So yes, you can do it, but really I suggest starting with a whole vest pattern, like not just that.
Yeah, it's more than a hack. Okay, so question from Keto Quilts. Hi, Amy. I just watched part 1 video. Question: do you do the hem facing for the bottom before sewing the sides? I will start answering this. We didn't, and because I keep trying to force mine to fold nicely on my pre-quilted grid, that video has got some. It's got some discrepancies. We're just kind of pushing through, and this is great, because this is Teresa's attitude in a sewing class too, right? Is it yes. Every quilt has its own character, and you want to bring that character to the coat, whether that's scalloped hemline or prairie points, or all kinds of stuff that we've seen sort of incorporated into the coat styling. And so I'm immediately pushing the Journeyman Jacket outside of its comfort zone, because instead of following the exact measurements, I want the hemline to hit one of my existing quilt line folds. Right. So we're sort of fudging it a little bit, and you'll see how that goes.
So we'll hack it a little bit, but really you have to sew the sleeves and you have to sew the side seam, and then we'll do the facing kind of at the end. So I try to put all the construction stuff together easily, and then we'll finish it up by adding welt pockets or a patch pocket, a breast pocket, and then doing the hems and all of the facings all kind of at the end to I don't know, get you through the easy part. So it looks like a jacket right away. That's what I love. It's like, oh, it looks like a jacket already. In fact, you can actually try yours on because it already looks like a jacket.
I can do that.
Yeah. So this one, we have to add the collar still to get it to be the right shape. He didn't mention, but one of the things about this fabric that is important, if you've worked with double gauze, like when Shannon Fabric's making double gauze, I taught that a lot. And if you have worked with that before, you know that with warmth and with wear, it starts to stretch a little bit. So what
it's
we
not
found,
a knit.
It's not a knit.
It's a woven, but it's loose.
Yes, it's loose, and because the way that it's woven, it will start to like kind of loosen up and get softer, which is lovely, except when you're trying to make things match, and that's a little bit harder. So when you are working with something like this, it's important, one, to do the serging or some sort of a stay stitching around those edges, but also when it starts to stretch a little bit, just take it to the iron and steam it, and it will come back into shape. Okay, so I have a feeling we'll probably end up needing to do this on the neckline, because
I've already stretched it out a little bit. Every time I try it on, it gets a little bigger at the neckline.
Yep, exactly. I feel like there was a question.
There's a good one here, and this is going to be great. This is a great conversation about our production schedule right now. So obviously, we pushed the Journeyman Jacket PDF pattern out for Black Friday, for Thanksgiving season, shopping season. And you can get that on their website at crinkledreams.com. And we have pre-orders with shops right now for the printed version. The distributors have orders in with us, and those files will be going to the printer later today. So that puts us at like 2 weeks of turnaround before we get the patterns, and then they have to come back out. I would expect you to be able to see paper patterns at your local quilt shop, which is where we would love for you to get the pattern, in January. I think that seems reasonable.
I would say probably before Christmas, but we'll see.
You're optimistic.
I am.
I thought I was the optimist.
No, I'm pretty optimistic about getting patterns out. So would you do me a favor too? And would you go grab do you know where the PDF pages are? So how you print it out? Remember we had extras?
I don't. Yes.
I think they were on the table out there. Well, look, because one of the things that we get is we get questions about is the PDF and how to put the PDF together. So we drop the PDF first because then people can actually access it. And I wanted people to be able to make them before Christmas if we couldn't get the stuff back from the printer in time. But people often have not put PDF patterns together before. And one of the things that I did with this one is that I designed it so it can be put together kind of in sections. So there is section A, section B, section C, and each of those come together to create something. So like section C is the collar. So you would just put the section C pages together to get a collar. Okay, so here is a sample. So let's show from the top. There we go. Okay, so here it is put together. This is the page that you get, and I know you can't see it very well because these lines are really thin, but it comes and it will show you that you're going to have section A, section B, section C, D, E, and F is both the front and the back of the jacket. Okay, so each of these you put together. I've had a lot of questions about how to do this, so I kind of want to just show you really quick in case you want to get the pattern or you have got it and you're like, I don't know. So this is section A. It's just the breast pocket. So if you're not going to make the breast pocket, you don't have to print this out. Okay. That's the thing, is like whatever you want to use, print that. All right. If you have the elemental coat and you want to print the Welt pocket stuff, you can print just those pages. All right. So this is the sleeve section. All right, so this is the top row. So when I look at that page, it'll show me here. Get this stuff cleaned up a little bit. So it'll show me here, the E section, I'm going to have 4 across, and then I have 3 rows of that. So I end up having 12 E pieces. Okay, so I'm going to show you the first row of it. So there's a few ways of doing this, putting these together. All right. One of the easiest ways is to just kind of fold this under right along that line. Match it up close as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, and then I want to get this. So the bigger thing here is making sure that this triangle matches. All right, and then making sure that your lines match. So even if I got this to line up differently up here and these are slightly off, I want to make sure that these lines actually match right along that center line. Okay. I had someone who emailed yesterday about the circle not becoming a circle, which you had a problem with too.
Oh, yeah.
We have no idea why that would be a problem, but it was.
Well, it got me concerned as to whether or not the pages were printing at different scale from one to the other that were right next to each other.
Right.
It's not. But with printing and file management and stuff, there ends up being like remainders, basically.
Yeah.
And so maybe it's a pixel or two off. We are not in pixel perfect perfection land here. So as long as your actual size lines match up, you're gonna be great.
Okay, so now once you've gotten it to this point, and you can do this a few different ways. So you can use tape. Hawke used shipping tape the other day. Not what you used.
Clear plastic shipping tape.
Clear tape. Stuck it on here. You can also do a zigzag, which is often what I do. You can do a straight stitch. You can just tape it with Scotch tape.
You can sew right through the paper, just like if you're paper piecing something. Your foundation paper piecing.
If you want to move that stuff, I'll show them how I do that. Just get the machine turned on. So this is the one that he taped together the other day that just has the packing tape. So what's nice about doing it this way, a lot of times people want to use just a little bits of Scotch tape, but then where you do that, the pattern kind of buckles and doesn't become a sole piece. It's really the thing that I like about sewing them together is that you get one piece that is just there. Okay. So if you have, let me see if I have it in here. I do not have my glue stick. So if you have a glue stick, you can absolutely just glue these together. And if not, we're just going to take it over to the machine. I'm going to show you how to sew it. So using a glue stick will hold it in place while you're doing this, but I'm just going to do this. I'm going to do it at a 3mm stitch length. Do we have a glue stick? Oh, yes.
Show it right there.
This guy, little OD 505, temporary adhesive glue stick, kind of my favorite. So we're just going to put a little bit there. I love glue sticks because they hold things so much better than I could do it by hand. Okay, so I'm making sure that my lines here match, that I've got a square here, and that my circle is kind of matching here. All right. And then I'm just going to sew it. We're using your fancy color here.
Yep.
Okay, I have to put it on the right side of the fold. That'll help. I think, there we go. All right, so I'm just going to stitch down this. Like I said, I opened up the stitch length to a 3. You can do a straight stitch or a zigzag. A zigzag tends to hold a little bit better because it's harder to come out than a straight stitch.
Do you back stitch?
No, no back stitching here. No back stitching. So once we've gotten it to here, then you're going to have all of these pieces. Now, when you do this, when you cut this, you're going to cut your thread just a little bit. When it's a straight stitch, it can kind of pop out a couple little stitches. So one thing you can do is put a little piece of tape over that. But a zigzag, which is what I said I like to use a lot of times, will not pull out quite as easily. But then at that point, you're just going to cut this out just like you would a normal pattern along the sizes. And each of these sizes has a separate color and a separate dotted lineness. For lack of a better word.
Got it. Yes, there's a different profile of dotted line.
Yes.
Hey, this actually brings up a question from Fabric King. What thread do you recommend? And we've been using for years. We've been using polyester thread from Metler.
Yeah.
And Metler Metricine.
Yeah, that's what I use a lot is Metler Metricine threads. It is pretty easy to find. A lot of quilt stores have it. And it is really nice, strong polyester thread that lasts really well. I think it's a 50 weight, if I remember right. It might be 40, but it's totally usable for piecing, for sewing, and I use it for lots of things because it is extra strong. It makes it a really good thread for lots of things. And I found that with using it for using a polyester thread, especially like Metricine, there are a few others that are out there that you could use, but a polyester sewing thread is really good to use when you're making a quilt coat, because you're sewing through so much fabric sometimes, because depending on how thick it is, it can be quite thick. And so sewing through all of that, you end up you need that stronger thread so that it doesn't pop. Okay, so the cotton threads will pop really badly if they're given stress. That's one of the things, is using it for piecing or for quilting. If you're doing long arm quilting, you use polyester. But in piecing, a lot of times people want to use the cotton thread, and that's fine because it doesn't really get much stress. So if you're doing something where the thread is going to get some stress, it's more important to use a polyester thread because of the strength of it, for sure. I'm going to switch you to the down one, and I want to show you just a little bit. So let me know if you have any questions on that. It's pretty easy. You're going to sew the whole thing together and then cut it out, really.
Okay, Teresa, which block magazine was the best in? Was it one of those?
I think it was in this one. Oh yeah, here it is. Skills, Stitch Up Teresa Coates Flip Side Vest. There it is.
There it is. That episode, or that issue.
There we go.
Magazine.
Thanks.
Right there.
So there's the vest pattern. All right. So it also has the option of having a high neckline or having like a V neckline. You can have it straight edged, a little bit of curve, all sorts of things. So the pattern is in here. And then I believe you download the pattern sheets from their website. That cute little pattern. Thanks for finding it.
And that is, so yes, I think the pattern sheets are downloadable there. We will probably never have that pattern on our website available, just because they got us first about that. So
that might be sort of true.
Yeah
Rights revert back to me. Pattern drafting things.
Got it.
So I wanted to talk just a little bit about thicknesses of the fabric and what a difference it makes, since we're talking about the thread. So this one, you can see this is actually a pre-quilted fabric that we're going to have in the shop pretty soon, which I'm really excited about. It's supposed to be here this week, just so you know. But this is a pretty thin one. It's a polyester batting, and I can smush it down pretty good. So it doesn't need to go through a whole lot. I can probably use this without a walking foot and be able to do it just fine. Polyester thread I would still use, but it's not so thick. This one is a vintage quilt. There's some scraps I got from a class in Colorado, and I loved this quilt so much. I was like, I will take any scraps you have. So she gave me her scraps. So one of the things that I want to show you about this is a vintage quilt. It's shrunk up and super crinkly, which, if you can imagine from the name Crinkle Dreams, I really love the crinkle. It's hand quilted and all of that. Beautiful. The thing I want you to note about this is how stretchy it is. So you can see it has a lot of stretch in it, which can be both good and bad, but know that your fabric has some stretch. This is also much thicker because of the batting that's in here, and also all of the seams. So wherever you have more seam allowances, it's going to be thicker. So you can see like these two are pieced. This piece is just the solid cotton, and you can see how much thicker those two are than this one. So the more piecing there is, the thicker the coat, and that does create more things that you have to be careful of. So like the armpit is a little bit harder to do. The underarm seam is a little harder to do because of the thickness. So be patient with yourself if it's really thick, and make sure that you use a walking foot. This is another vintage quilt, but this one was a factory made one. And you could see, even though it's got piecing on it, it's pretty thin. It was still a little bit more, because you have these places where 4 seams, well, probably 8 seams. Yeah. 8 seams come together, and it's really kind of, it's gnarly in there. It's a good little bump in there. It looks beautiful, but does create something to be concerned about when you're doing it. And not concerned is really the wrong word. It can be a challenge. Okay. So the easiest thing is something like this, where it's pre-quilted fabric. That is super duper easy, or using a single layer like the canvas or corduroy or denim, or all sorts of options. Oh, this was another quilted one that was with cotton batting inside, super thin. Yeah, so I wanted to show you some different options. So things to think about when you're choosing a fabric to make your coat out of.
This is a good question, kind of going back to the printing question. So when you download the PDF from us, I'm going to switch back to camera 1. Yeah. There we go. When you download the PDF from us, I don't know if she mentioned this earlier because I've been running around, but you get 3 files. You get the booklet with all the pattern instructions. You get the print at home file, which is what she's been talking about and showing you how to sew the pieces together.
Yeah.
But you also get a print shop file, which means that if you have a relationship with a print shop in your hometown that has a wide printer, you can take this file into them on a thumb drive and they can print these full-size pattern sheets out for you.
Yes.
And did we talk about the layers?
Not yet.
Size
but a little caveat about the size. Because of the sizing for it, I've made it so that the pattern page itself, the print shop version, is 36 inches. So it's slightly larger than an AO size. So some of the shops are like, we can't print this size. So I will tell you, there's 2 places that I know you can get it printed. Brooklyn Motif Printing is who prints our patterns overall. So if you've bought the PDF and you decide, I just want to buy a pattern sheet, you can absolutely go to Brooklyn Motif printing.com, I think is what it is. Look for Brooklyn Motif and you can go there and order the pattern sheet itself. And then she'll send you the pattern sheet. So you upload the print shop file, she'll print it out for you and send it to you. So I think it's less than $10 to get that sheet printed. The other place that I know of that we have worked with a few times here in Portland is called Bolt Fabric Boutique. And they have an online website as well that you can actually go to and upload that print shop version and they will print it and send it to you. And I think it was like about $6 or so to have that printed and sent. So absolutely, if you bought the PDF and you're like, I'm not really sure I want to do it this way, you can absolutely have it printed out. And then we'll have the printed version ourselves within a few weeks.
So this is also a really great option for specifically folks who are international. Mm-hmm. We don't ship internationally. I'm not particularly sure that, I'm not sure who does. Missouri Star might ship internationally.
I think some
so you could potentially get our pattern from there, like any local quilt shop. They could order it and ship it. You could order it and they could ship it.
Yeah.
But I know we have a ton of folks in Australia that are paying attention and want to make quilt coats. They're ordering the PDF. They get it down there. We don't have to worry about, shipping costs or tariffs or any of that on the PDFs because it's just information. Once they get it, they then have the print shop file. They go to their local print shop down there and they get full-size pattern sheets. Yes. So that's a way for us to work around having some good impact internationally and trying to make sure that those folks are being served.
Yeah, exactly. And it does help. So he mentioned the layering in the pattern, and that's something, thank you, Amy, for helping me make sure that worked right, that you can turn off the layers if you're using Acrobat Reader, and you can turn off the layer so that you're only printing the size that you need. So you can print just the medium size, and this is true of the elemental coats. You could just print the D size and leave all the other stuff on, but take off all of the other sizes. And then when you print it out, it will print out only the one size you want. So if sometimes you get frustrated being able to remember which line do I cut on, which is also why I have it printed in color. So it's a little bit easier to just follow the yellow line or the blue line rather than trying to remember which dot pattern do I follow, because that's really hard for me. But if you don't like doing that, you're frustrated by it, or you just want to make it super easy for yourself, you can absolutely change the layers so it only prints the size that you want, which I think is a fancy little thing that I didn't realize for a long time doing PDF patterns that was possible. But you do have to open it in Acrobat Reader, and then you can go ahead and turn off your layers.
So for the record, Acrobat Reader is a free version. It's probably the only thing Adobe will ever release for free, and they basically had to, because they made PDFs an industry standard.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, obviously, there's Acrobat Pro and stuff like that, but
and it works in those. You
need the free version of Reader. You can click on the layers, turn them off and on with a little eyeball until you get what you need.
Yeah, and it only works. We've only found that it works in Acrobat Reader. We tried it in Preview on our Macs. Didn't work. There's no layer function there. So just so you know, and probably because it's created in Adobe Illustrator and then exported to another Adobe product, that all works pretty seamlessly. Yeah. So there's that. All right. Anything else that we need to tell them? Because otherwise I'm just going to tell them about classes.
I think that's probably good. Let's see. One question here, I guess, on my coat, I want to use my orphan blocks.
Yes, please.
I mean, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. It's like basically it gets to be your quilting journey sampler.
Yes. Yes. Which is great. And such a fun way to use up blocks that you're like, I always tell people, like, you've made some and you're like, yeah, I do not want to make a whole quilt of this. Yeah, just save them, put them together, and you can make yourself a really funky little quilt coat, which I love. I love that. Okay.
I think we're good. If we missed your question, please put it in again and bump, and I'll bump it right to the head of the line again, in case we didn't get to you, and we'll take care of that. And in the meantime,
classes.
Where are we? Where are you teaching? Where am I going to be with you?
Next week? So we are heading to Always in Stitches, which I don't have a banner for because the classes have already been. The sign-up's been shut down. So so we're going to Always in Stitches in Noblesville, Indiana next weekend, which will be really fun. So we have a 2-day workshop there. And then if Audrey can throw up the banners for the other classes, we have some classes that will be coming up next year. So I'm going to do an online quilt coat workshop again, and we're going to do it over 3 weekends. So basically we're going to do it Sundays for 3 weeks, but kind of spread out over time. So we're going to meet together. I did this last year. I've done it once a year, and I think probably this year I'll do it twice because I've had a lot of requests to do it in kind of an off period and also a time where you can use quilt coats. So we were talking about this because I had a few people who were in the farming industry, I guess you would call it, and they are really limited by when they can do things because of the harvest schedules and the planting schedules and that sort of thing. So we're doing it in January and February so they can join us. And we're going to do that over 3 weeks. We'll meet. We'll talk about the quilt that you want to use or the fabric that you want to use, what kind of modifications you want to do, how to lay out the pattern, all of that stuff. The prep work will be talked about 1 week, and then we'll spend a week doing construction. And then we'll spend another week finishing up the coat and constructing it the rest of the way. I am opening that up to whichever coat pattern you want to do. So if you want to do an elemental coat, you want to do a journeyman jacket, you want to do an elemental kids coat, you want to mix, you want to do an elemental coat with a welt pocket, this is where you're going to be able to do it because we're going to talk about all of those different style options. So that class is available on my website. So if you go to crinkledreams.com, you'll be able to find the sign up for that. It's $99 and it's for the 3 days, and those will be 4-hour sessions. So that'll be a significant amount of time. If you sign up for it, then you will be able to access the video. So the videos won't be available afterward for anyone, but if you want to sign up and take the class, you can watch it later. You can watch the recorded classes. Okay.
Oh, there we go. I do remember you asking about the zipper. Let's see if we can. We'll see if we can go top down on this.
Yep.
And then I'll just do this. There we go.
There we go. So it's just folded over, and then you can't really tell because it's a cream zipper on cream fabric, but it's just stitched down. So here is the stitching line. We just stitched the zipper down and stitched it in place. Okay.
And then what happens at the top? You literally just folded it over so that that you couldn't get the zipper off the end.
Right.
And tacked it down.
Yeah. So the other way that you can handle that is there's 2 things. One, you can measure your front and see how long it is. If I measured this one, it is 21 inches for my front. So I could get a 20-inch zipper and just start my zipper up a little bit, and then it would fit in here just fine. Okay, so you can actually buy a zipper the right size. It's really, because yours was too long. So we just turned it under and it was fine. The other thing you can do, and we'll talk about this in the class, is how you can create a separate facing so that your zipper is tucked inside. And then it's nice and even on both sides. Nice looking.
Nice looking.
So that's another way of doing it. Okay. So yeah, the zipper is, we just teach you how to do it so that it's just sewn on because it's the easiest way of doing it. I've tried to make the pattern so you don't really have to have a lot of sewing garment knowledge. But there are some things in the Journeyman Jacket that I kind of want to expand people's sewing skills. I'm going to
learn. You get to watch me learn next week. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong camera. There, you'll get to watch me do it next week. And if I can do it, I know you can do it. It's going to be fine.
Absolutely.
You mentioned the third quilt coat pattern. Figure we might as well show that.
Yeah.
This is the kids coat.
Yeah.
Elemental kids coat. Let's okay. So this is an elemental coat.
Yep.
And this is its matching kid's coat. Mother, daughter, grandma, grandchild, whatever. Big little option.
Grandparent, grandchild. There we go.
Yeah,
so you can do it either way. So the kids coat comes in toddler. That's all right. Toddler up to teen sizes, and that is available in paper and PDF as well. So all of those are available at crinklejames.com if you want them. So we will be going over the class, and we will be having the class and going over all of this stuff. January, February, I think is what the dates were. Okay, so next on that list, Audrey, what have we got?
I want to interject a quick question. So Chattanooga, Tennessee, we were through Chattanooga, Tennessee with Shannon Fabrics on our tour. If there's a quilt shop there that has classroom space, it's your job to convince them to call us and get us to come do a class, and we will totally come down. We love Chattanooga.
Yep. Either that or a guild.
Lookout Mountain, all that stuff it's great.
Yeah, I've done classes with guilds, with quilt shops, and I've done them with private groups. So I had one in when we were in Utah that I did. That it was just a group of friends who got together. They got 10 people to sign up for the class, and so then I came and taught them how to make the coat. So all of those are options. So if you want me to come to a city near you, it is a little bit on you to try to figure out a way that we can do it, but I'm more than happy to do it. I love coming around and teaching. All right. So what was the next class then? Because I don't have them memorized in my head. Hopefully she can put them back up there. All right. So there we go. So then, in January, just after, so one weekend we'll do the online one. And then the next weekend, the next Saturday, I finally have a quilt coat class in the Portland area. So I'm really excited. I've been here since March. I think we moved back here in March. And so it's been a while. And I'll be going to Montevilla Sewing in Lake Oswego on the 24th, I believe it was, and teaching there. So that's just a one-day class at Montevilla Sewing in Lake Oswego. All right. And then next... Okay, then we have the quilt coat workshop that'll be at the sewing studio in Lubbock, Texas. That's January 30th to the 31st. So that is a 2-day workshop. So that's the same class both days, the same group of people. That we'll be doing 2 days to do the class, which is really my favorite way of doing it, just because we can get through a lot more stuff. All right. And then we've got the Sewing and Stitchery Expo. A lot of us around here, we call it Sew Expo. It's in Puyallup, up near Seattle area. So if you are local to the Northwest, it's a pretty well-known show that we have every single year. And it is focused on all sorts of things. So it used to be much more apparel-based. And then over the last probably 8 or 10 years, it's become more and more quilt-based, which is kind of my jam, is that it's both of those things together now. So I'll be doing a few different classes, including a quilt coat class. I'll be doing a quilt lecture. I'll be teaching paper piecing. I can't even remember. I think I have 5 classes that I'm teaching there. So those signups start pretty soon if they haven't already. I think they just start December 5th.
Mary Jo,
2 days from now.
Mary Jo, if you get us a quilt coat class near Glacier, your class is free. I'm buying your class for you.
And he means it.
Because Glacier is one of the national parks that we haven't had a chance to do, and we'll come up because we're going to have to spend 2 weeks. I know better.
Yeah, we will. We love an excuse.
We'll bring the Jeep up and it'll be great.
Yeah, very cool. All right. And then was there more in there, Audrey? Are there more classes? I can't remember. I've only put in a few of them. I think we got through February. I think that might be it. So we have some other classes scheduled throughout the rest of the year, and you can follow up with those on either crinkledreams.com. That has a list of all of my classes, as well as my blog, which is teresacoates.com. I just recently kind of reorganized, and it's a little bit easier to find stuff. So I'll have to do a little bit more of that to figure out how to make it really easy for you to find stuff. But if you're looking for quilt coat inspiration, I always post there about my classes and what things people have done in the classes, so you can see what other people are doing and really be inspired by other people's makes. It's kind of my favorite thing. I also have the Make with Teresa Facebook group that you can join as well. And lots of people post there with their finished quilt coats, and that's always fun. That's a great place to be able to answer questions or ask questions that I can answer. Is there anything else that we need to tell them?
I think we're in good shape.
Okay.
I mean, at some point we'll have to talk about retreats for next year.
Yes, we do have 2 retreats that we're having next year. We'll talk about it more in the new year. There's a ton of stuff going on. Absolutely. So if you're interested in what I'm doing, where I'm teaching, what you can do to join us, you can absolutely just check the websites, and those calendars are there. We've got classes all over the place in Ohio and Minnesota and Texas and Washington, all sorts of things. So make sure that you check that out. You can also subscribe to the newsletter, and I push those things out as well. And you can sign up for that at crinkledreams.com. So Journeyman Jacket, brand new. We're really excited about it. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. Did you want to show something?
One more, because I do remember seeing this come up, and I don't think we did. Did we talk about Coastal Quilters Guild in Santa Barbara?
No, but that's what I'm doing.
January 8th.
Yeah, in January. Is that right?
Yeah, in January. Got it.
But that one I believe is closed.
Yeah, I think that's guild members only, and I think it's pretty full at this point. We're going to see you though.
But if it's not full, Coastal Quilters, please tell me, and I'll promote it more so we can get more people there. But I'm looking forward to going to Santa Barbara in January. I will say. That's
okay.
Be nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, everybody.
Is that it then?
I think that's it.
All right. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys being here. We'll be back in January, and we're going to do lives every month again, because we've been missing it, and things have been a little bit, as usual, crazy, but it's getting better. So thank you very much for always being here, for being our support, and for chugging along with our little crinkle dreams. I really appreciate it very much. Thanks, Audrey, for being there behind the scenes. And until next time,
happy sewing.